don't have a lot of the preseason polls in just yet, but we've gotten snippets and snapshots of them. 2 of them we do have in. We have Athlon's and we have Street and Smith's. And in Athlon's, Utah's 13. And in Street and Smith's, they're number 21. I think 21 will be kind of on the low side for Utah. I do. I think most of the polls are going to have them in the mid to lower teens. Some might have them a little bit higher, like Phil Steele or maybe Dennis Dodd or Brett McMurphy. But I think most of them are going to be in that 14, 15, 16 range. So I've been telling you guys this for anybody that wants to listen. This has a chance to be historically an unbelievable year for Utah football. Now they've got to go out and win the games. They've got to go out and take care of business. But as far as preseason hype goes, on a national level, not locally because we always hype it up locally with Utah and BYU and Utah State, but historically on a national level, I think this could be the most hype heading into a season that Utah football's ever had. And I think the numbers will bear that out once the polls all hit. When we look at these consensus numbers, by the time the season begins in about 98 days, I think you're going to see this is a historic season, preseason heading in. More hype than Utah football's ever had heading into a season. Now the question is, can they live up to that hype? And that will only be answered once they hit the field. But this is another sign of progress for the Kyle Whittingham era. I know these are all little mileposts, and again, preseason polls don't mean anything, but they mean recognition for your program. They mean that your program is now being recognized not by one person or 2 persons, not just regionally, but across the country. We had Ralph D. Russo on from the Associated Press, the National College Football writer for the Associated Press, and his inkling was he kind of thought Utah was going to be in the mid-teens as well. He says they've historically been overlooked in the preseason. He wasn't going to overlook them. So we'll see what happens. Again, it doesn't mean anything right now. They're just preseason looks and preseason polls. But as I did a little research this morning and went back and looked, Utah has historically been a team that's not necessarily gotten a lot of preseason hype. This might be different. Things might change this year for the University of Utah. We'll see what happens. But again, 2 polls out right now. Athlon's 13, Street and Smith's number 21. And I know a lot of people have accused me of pumping this thing up. I'm just simply telling you what I think. Maybe something happens this summer or early fall that changes my mind. But I'm usually very honest and realistic with you guys about where things are. Preseason prognostications, preseason polls, stuff like that. Last year, I put my money where my mouth was. I told you what my preseason ballot was for the Pac-12 Conference. I picked Utah to win the South. It was the first time I had ever picked Utah to win the South. I'd had them second before, but I'd never picked them. Last year, I picked them to win the South. I didn't pick them to win the league, though. I picked them to lose to Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. That was in July. As it turned out, once December hit, or late November hit in Santa Clara, what happened? Utah was there. They won the Pac-12 South, and they were a freak play away from winning the Pac-12 championship. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is again this year, and I'm going to tell you, 98 days from now when the season begins and all the way through the season, I not only think Utah will win the Pac-12 South, but I think they're going to be a story nationally because I think they're going to win the Pac-12 Conference. And depending on how they do in the regular season, undefeated or a loss, they'll have a chance at the playoffs. Undefeated, certainly, but I'm never going to pick somebody to go undefeated. That's just unrealistic. But I think they could be a one-loss team in the regular season. I do. Because the schedule favors them, and their toughest game is at Seattle, at Washington. Now, they play it in November, so that Washington team will have had a chance to gel, but I really do believe that by the time Utah plays them, Utah will be in a great spot. Washington will be better. But I am going to put my money where my mouth is, and I have not backed away from this. I think Utah wins the Pac-12 Conference this year. I do. It's all in place. We said a year ago that 19 had a chance to be better than 18. 18 was really good. I do think 19 could be really good and should be really good. So we'll see what all the polls say, but the consensus polls, I think the preseason consensus will be, when it's all said and done, more hype than ever, more ranking, more expectation than ever, at least heading into a season around Utah football.